Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Operate First Community Cloud Meetup every second Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. ET/New York time zone. Thanks for joining. You can find our privacy policies under the short link op1.sd/privacy policy. You can see all the details about this meeting and find the recording under op1.sd/meetup. And we are holding this meetup on the OpenAPI Code of Conduct, which you can find under op1.sd/community Code of Conduct. Thanks for joining, and thanks for Rishab and a lot of the team from Apicurio. As mentioned in my email and Twitter announcement, if you need the cure, go for API. And with no further ado, I would directly hand over to Rishab. Thanks for presenting.
Thank you, Thorsten. So, hello guys, thank you all for joining. We're gonna talk about what Apicurio is. We'll talk about what we do over here, what are our projects. We'll go through a quick demo, and then hopefully we can talk about how, we as a team use the Operate First cloud and what are the benefits that we have gained out of it. So I'll just quickly introduce you to the team. So Paolo is our engineering manager. He manages the team. Eric is our lead. Carlos is our security expert, so he takes care of security and other stuff. Nikisha has joined our team recently, so she takes care of productization along with me. And we have Jakub and Andrea, who also contribute to the team success. So we have a small team, and I will now ask Eric to talk about Apicurio and then hopefully run us through a quick demo. Over to you, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Rishab. So I'm going to try to just give a little bit of context about what the Apicurio community is all about, what kind of projects we have up there. So I'm going to try to do a screen share, and we're going to see if that works, because I'm then going to do a short demo, and I think it's all going to be fine. So if you're interested in our upstream community, this is where you can find it. It's called Apicurio, and we've got obviously a GitHub organization with the same name and a project website. So initially, it didn't start out this way, but where we are now with the upstream community is that Apicurio is sort of this umbrella brand, if you will. And we have a number of projects within that brand, so sub-projects basically. And we're still working on trying to get the kinks out of the branding challenges that we have with this. It's sort of like a Hibernate thing, right? Where you've got Hibernate and a bunch of smaller projects hanging off of that. So in the upstream community, we have a few different projects at the moment, specifically, and I guess most importantly, Apicurio Studio and Apicurio Registry. Those are kind of the two main applications. And then we have some smaller things like Data Models and Apicurito. We also have something that's brewing that's going to be the successor to Apicurio Studio that's just called API Designer. So I'm expecting it to be Apicurio API Designer, or possibly just Apicurio Designer. We're not quite sure yet, so we're working on that. That'll become important when I show you the demonstration. So this is a great place to start if you're interested in the upstream community. Apicurio Studio is intended to be a design suite basically for creating APIs in a visual way, a visual collaborative way, right? So if you're looking for, in particular, contract first API development, then Studio is a nice first step to address that kind of first phase of the API lifecycle, the phase where you're designing your API, designing your contract. And then Apicurio Registry is actually on the other end of that lifecycle, where you need a runtime component to register API designs or schema designs. So if you're familiar at all with Kafka use cases, for example, one of the big use cases that Apicurio Registry solves is the schema registry use case for Kafka applications. But it's also capable of storing OpenAPI and AsyncAPI and GraphQL type of resources as well. So registry is this place where you can, is this runtime component architecturally, where applications that need runtime access, decoupled runtime access from, or to rather, schemas and API designs, that's what you can use Registry for. So I'm not going to dive too much more into those individual projects, but we're going to see a little bit as a demo. So let me just jump into that so we have as much time to have a discussion afterwards as possible. The two applications we currently have deployed to Operate First, as I mentioned, are the Registry and the Designer, right? So I'm going to just sort of show both. We have them deployed currently just separately, but kind of pulled together a little bit in the user interface by just having a navigation sidebar on the left with links to the different applications. But it's at the moment they're essentially separate deployed applications in Operate First, separately deployed and managed. So really quickly, what do these apps do, right? So we'll start with Designer. Again, Designer is this sort of successor to Studio, and as I mentioned, Studio is this thing that allows you to do contract first API design. So this application allows a user to create and maintain a collection of schemas and API designs, and then edit them and evolve them over time. And that for us is going to become sort of the basis for value-added functionality beyond the core ability to edit these types of content, right? At the moment, we're focused. This is sort of an early version of this tool, but right now we're sort of focused on the core functionality of creating and managing this content. So from this page, you can see I already have a few APIs that have been created. I can certainly from here create and import new content. If I already have an OpenAPI file, for example, I can just import it here. I can create a new one. We have sort of basic content management here, where we can maintain the collection of designs that we have with some history tracking and things like that, and metadata. The core thing about this application, of course, though, is making changes to creating and changing these pieces of content, right? So these files, essentially. So this is an example of the experience that you get when you want to create or design a OpenAPI or a REST API using OpenAPI. So we have a visual editor here, which allows you to sort of a form-based navigation through OpenAPI content. You can go at the source directly if you need to, but the goal of this design experience is to hide the source code as much as possible. So if for users who aren't editing OpenAPI content all day long, all week long, it can be a little bit challenging to remember the semantics and remember how everything is structured with an OpenAPI document. So we wanted to create something that was a little bit more guided. And so that's basically what this tool allows you to do: log in, create and manage these, create and edit these things. If I go back to the list, I can also see that there are other types, right? So for JSON schema, depending on the type of content, we might do a more advanced or more naive, or less advanced or more naive job of allowing you to edit the content. So in some cases, we have to just fall back to like a Monaco editor for allowing editing of the content. But the goal of the project over time is to introduce more and more of these more visual and sort of guided experiences for the editing of content. Okay, and then from that page, there's a few other things that can be done. You obviously have basic editing along with validation of content as we make changes. But then there's also some basic integration with the service registry that we're going to see in just a second. And then some other things like being able to download design and stuff like that and manage the metadata. Okay. So once we're done designing and we've implemented our APIs and things like this, and we want to be able to register the content that we've created and put into production, we can use Registry for that. Again, we've deployed a version of our multi-tenanted deployment of Apicurio Registry into Operate First. So the architecture of Registry has a number of components to support this multi-tenancy that we have available. And what that means is the first step that you take when you come to Apicurio Registry is you have to manage the collection of instances. So you can have multiple logical instances of Apicurio Registry. They're completely separate and sort of data segregated instances in a multi-tenant deployment. This is one of the things that Operate First really is great for us, is this ability to to deploy and test all of these components together in a environment, in a realistic, deployment, OpenShift deployment environment. So it's been really great. Okay, so the first thing I would do is create an instance, and this is just sort of a basic management of the list of instances. I could create more, but then from here I can obviously dig into an individual instance. So this is the experience that you would get if, for example, you were to just download Apicurio Registry and install it locally. You're going to get just a single instance view, obviously, of that content, and this is what we can do in Operate First. Once you've created the instance, you get, as I said, this logical data segregated thing. From here, we can upload artifacts and manage content within the system. The registry allows, as I said, you to upload, register multiple different kinds of things. So that includes OpenAPI, AsyncAPI, protobuf, Avro, etc. Ultimately, the registry is a place to register those pieces of content and to have access to that content at runtime in a highly available environment. The additional functionality that this system gives you, is something called rules. So this is sort of the last point to understand about Apicurio Registry, is that it not only allows you to register content, but it also allows you to control the evolution of that content over time. So as new versions of your artifacts are created, so new versions of your API design, new versions of your schemas, you can configure the registry to control whether a new version is allowed to be uploaded to that artifact. And the reason you might want to do that is because you might want to control, for example, the compatibility rules for your content. So you only maybe want to allow backward compatible changes to your content. So if you upload a version 2, if it's not backward compatible, the registry can detect that and then reject the content. So this provides some modicum of control over how the content changes over time. This is important for the use case because it will ensure that we can, in certain use cases, certain important use cases like Kafka, you don't have schemas that end up breaking existing functionality and existing tools. So, all right, I think that's as fast as I can do that. So there's the demo of both of the major Apicurio projects. So I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna throw it back to Rishab.
Thank you, Eric. Do anybody has any questions about the product? All right. Okay, so I was thinking, let's also share about our experience about Operate First. So I'm going to ask Paolo to pitch in here because he was the one who introduced us to Operate First. Paolo, do you mind pitching in?
Yes. Hi. I wasn't expecting this. So actually, I'm a big fan of Operate First, and I'm promoting to all the other friends, projects, and colleagues that we have in the company because we have had a great experience. And our specific story of how we stumble on Operate First is bizarre because I actually heard about it firsthand by chance by Marcel. While we were on a cross-team exercise event that has nothing to do with what we are working on and what it was working on. We were just saying, hey, this is, I'm Paolo, this is what I do. I'm Marcel, this is what I do. And I learned about that, and I found a big chance there to get access to something that might be very practical for our responsibilities, because it should be remembered that the Apicurio team is responsible for one of the managed services that Red Hat is working on. So we are literally working on delivering and operating a service from a pure end-to-end perspective, so following the Red Hat internal process and rules. But we also have a corresponding upstream project. And we don't have yet an official and standardized story on how to work upstream on the corresponding managed services bits and procedures. And we found the opportunity to work with the Operate First environment a good one for us. So I remember that it was probably around the Christmas time that I decided to try that myself, not try to ask my team to work on something that I wasn't really sure was working. So sorry for not putting total trust from the beginning, but I wanted to try that firsthand. And apparently I managed with a little back and forward of PRs, because someone on your team was kind enough to tell me, hey, do you want us to do the onboarding for you? And as a proud former engineer, I said, oh, no, I want to do that by myself. That will be doable. And obviously, I didn't know what I was going on towards. But at the end, we managed. We did that. The very first deployment and configuration, I managed to do that. Things looked OK by my point of view. Then from that moment on, I started annoying my team. It took a while for them to really pay attention to what I was telling them. Like, everyone was excited to see something, but everyone was too busy to doing their job to touch it, until a certain point they needed something out of that. I don't even remember what it was or how come I convinced people to touch it. But that picked up. And now I think that everyone is a fan of the service. Specifically, and I was putting this in the survey that I was filling these past days for two reasons. One is the fact that it is easily accessible in the way that you put it together with this documentation, so everyone can figure it out by itself, more or less, how to make something out of that, which is a big achievement, specifically if you come from the experience that we are facing with other environments that might not be that straightforward. And the second one, which sounds a little cheesy, but trust me, this is really honest feedback. Your support level on the Slack channel is great. Like, we know that we go there, we ask someone. There is always someone, which again is not that common for this kind of services, even the professional ones. And usually it's very friendly, try to unlock us to make progress. So by our point of view, it's always been a positive experience. So this is me speaking, and I'm not giving away any compliment for free. It's just something that I really think about. Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of build on that, or reiterate something that you touched on that I think is really important for us as a team, is having an environment, we'll call it an early access environment, or for us, like almost a dev environment or experimental area that we can deploy our applications to, has been extremely valuable. There, as Paolo mentioned, we have commercial versions of both of these applications, API Designer and Service Registry. So there are Red Hat managed versions of these things that customers can purchase, which is great. But what comes along with that are a lot of, I don't want to say restrictions, but process in terms of the things that you can push to environments, right? Even staging environments, but certainly production environments. And so having a fully upstream, because that's the other aspect of this too, is that we want as much, it's Red Hat, so everything we do should be in the upstream. So having the ability to take all upstream bits, put them into essentially an early access environment that we have full control over, without the sort of the sort of requirements on other teams within Red Hat, and the requirements to have build processes be a certain way and progress in a certain way through the different environments, has been super valuable. So the velocity that we can achieve, I think, helps us in the upstream, but then also absolutely helps us in the commercial products as well. So I think it's been overall really positive.
Wow, thank you. Honored to hear. Thank you so much. Yes, okay.
Hi, I actually have a question. So this is hosted on Operate First. How can I actually try it as a user? Go there and register my API and play with it?
Nobody else is jumping on the answer to this. Yes, you can. I will drop a link to the URL in the chat. One thing we don't have, you probably saw in the screen share, maybe, our URLs aren't that great, so we need to work on that a little bit. But yes, it is available. and you're welcome to give it a try. It is, as mentioned, not a production. There are no SLAs, obviously. There's not a production environment, so there's no guarantees that your data is going to be there forever. But yeah, you can check that out, and there is a authentication layer in front of it, so you will be challenged for authentication. But you can there are social logins, so you can use a social account to log in, or you can register an account if you prefer. So it shouldn't be any trouble to log in.
I just logged in with GitHub. Thanks.
That's the best.
I'll give it a try. Marcel?
Yeah, so regarding nice looking URLs, we can also help you and give you apicurio.operatefirst.cloud if you like, or something like community registry. Since we own that domain, we can also create subdomains, no problem. From a developer point of view, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So is it for like schema validation and API validation? So if I'm coding against a certain API, I would use the registry to make sure that I'm either creating my SDK out of that schema, or that I'm validating whether I'm talking the correct version of that API?
Both of those things, I think. So it's the meta. It's validating the schema. It's not doing schema validation against the actual data. So in other words, if you're in an asynchronous environment like Kafka or something like this, it's not about doing validation. Sorry, the registry does not validate the payloads of the messages. It validates the integrity of the schema itself, that the schema itself can evolve in ways that you want it to, and that the schema itself is correct and valid. So there are rules around, like, for example, if you wanted to use JSON schema, the semantics of JSON schema are well defined, right? If you deviate from the semantics of JSON schema, then your schema is just not going to work. So we can prevent files that we know won't work as JSON schemas from being registered. And then same thing from compatibility over time, right? And then from a REST API standpoint, it's a similar kind of thing. When you look at what the use cases would be, it would be for asynchronous APIs, it would be you have Kafka clients that need an Avro schema, for example, in order to do serialization and deserialization of the payloads. So they can fetch the schema at runtime from the registry rather than the schema being bundled with the application itself, which decouples the schema from the applications and makes it easier to upgrade your different applications, for example. From a REST API standpoint, it might be you want to register an OpenAPI file so that you have it available in a canonical location in a registry, because perhaps you're using Swagger UI or Redoc in order to generate documentation for it, and you need a URL to pull it from. You can also use that as the source for example, generating SDKs. So you can use that, the URL of the registry, perhaps as the input to an SDK generator.
Okay. Is there a use case, or maybe there's already a community that uses Apicurio Designer and then hosts their public-facing APIs via registry, or is it more for internal projects? And if I'm doing my intranet or corporate internal application, so I want to host my API so that my internal developers can code against it. I guess something that Google or some like really public or GitHub Office, they would host their, probably also but in their own instance. I think the question is there a need for a community hosted instance of the studio and the registry, where somebody who's wrapping up their own, I don't know, accounting application for learning REST API so that they can drop their API there, because they don't want to spin up their own registry and they don't want to spin up their own designer, but they might just use it for learning that stuff.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think the answer for the designer side of things is an obvious yes, that there is a desire for a community available API designer, and we know that because the Apicurio Studio product, which is the precursor, right? The existing project, so we'll call it the legacy project for this use case, also has a free non-production, hosted version of it, and that has gotten a ton of traffic and a ton of use. So people are very keen to use a tool like that without needing to buy anything or install anything locally, etc. Right? Even though it's not meant for production workloads, because we don't have SLAs, we don't have data backups and stuff for these kinds of environments, like with Operate First. It's still incredibly useful, right? As long as users know that they can back up their data themselves, or need to back up their data themselves. So for sure. As for the registry, it's less clear. I think you raise an interesting point, and it's probably not something we've thought a ton about. Should there, is there a use for a community registry that anybody could use in a canonical way, right? I think it's a very interesting idea, but we haven't really put a lot of thought into that.
No. So the kids around the block, which I'm helping from time to time to deploy Minecraft servers into Operate First, or do their own first pull request, or somebody's would write the first PHP application. Yikes! But I mean, they are starting coding, right? And if they would start to play with something that they host somewhere, and they can just put their API into a registry without, like, everybody defaults to Docker Hub or these registries that are out there. And if there isn't a registry for this kind of work where everybody can host their private, just for fun APIs, that might be a nice spot.
Yeah, agreed. Very
is the API the studio is that also multi-tenancy? So I can work in my own space?
Yeah, so yes, short answer is yes. The longer answer is maybe less interesting, but yes, it's actually worse. Currently, the API designer is single user, so it's multi-tenanted in the sense that all that stuff that I showed in the demo for the designer, that list of APIs and such, are stored in your browser. So we have a roadmap that includes creating an actual backend, the way that you, like a multi-tier architecture with a backend and everything, so that we support multi-user collaboration in the way that one would imagine. In that future world, it will be multi-tenanted. We just haven't implemented that yet. So right now, it's definitely multi-tenanted, where the tenant is an individual browser.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Interesting. John.
So we got a way of making an API, and we got a way of registering the API. Is there other tools that work around the API? Like here's a client that you could test against, or a list of unit tests, so that you could test the server out that is trying to make that API. Are those tools that are part of this this chain?
Every time I pause, waiting for somebody else to jump in. No, so that's a phenomenal question, right? Like, basically, you're saying, okay, you've got the start of the life cycle, and you've sort of got the end, almost the end of the life cycle, right? What about everything in between? It's a great question, and yes, of course, there are tools, but there aren't necessarily opinionated, from our perspective, opinionated tools that we've put together into a full sort of package, I guess. From a Red Hat perspective, we have more of those things plugged. So like from the implementation perspective, you can create a project in Quarkus and implement your API in Quarkus, for example. For the API management phase of the lifecycle, right, which is more towards the end, we have 3Scale or Red Hat OpenShift API Manager, I guess, is the name of the managed product. You're speaking my language, because for a very long time, I've wanted to pull together the upstream versions of all of these tools into a cohesive package, whether that's an Operate. This was before Operate First was even around. I've been thinking about this, and we've never really had the bandwidth to do it. So I think the answer is yes, these tools exist. I think there's an opportunity to pull them all together in a way that's really compelling for everybody, right, for the community. Microx, I think, for example, addresses the testing and mocking part of the story that you raised. There are obviously a plethora of, especially in the Java world, of of tools to implement APIs. So yeah, I think the tools are there, and the question is, how can they be brought together in a way that's compelling? And we haven't really done that yet.
So besides Open API, which do you do other RPC mechanisms like gRPC or even Corba? I mean, all this stuff. I come from Corba times.
I'm sorry to hear that. No, I'm kidding. Corba's fine. Yeah. So right now the support that we have is OpenAPI, AsyncAPI, GraphQL, Avro, JSON schema, protobuf. And then there's some legacy types, WSDL, XML schema. If that gives anybody, if you break out in hives when I say those things, then you've been through that hell. gRPC, not specifically, although we've recently had a community contribution that's in the Google BigQuery space, which I think is kind of orthogonal maybe to gRPC to some extent. And protobuf and gRPC I know are pretty tied. So yeah, but I mean, what I would say is that aspirationally, the community itself, these tools and the community, the Apicurio community, the intention is to support, as many formats as is sensible to do. We have a small team. The community is not huge, so there's only so much bandwidth to manage that kind of thing. But what you're saying is in the spirit of things. But we don't necessarily have coverage for everything that we could.
Thank you.
More questions? Time for discussion. We already hit the half an hour that we have, but if anybody want to stay in the call, that's fine. Well done.
I can barely understand you, Thorsten. Maybe you need to pull your microphone closer to your.
I'm just saying we hit half of an hour. I don't want to hold you up too long, but for sure, feel free to stay in the call to talk about it. I mean, from my point of view, I had a long talk with Rishab about how they're using it, and I asked especially for what could we do better. And I heard that we had some the onboarding was not clear enough in all the points, and we don't have to discuss this now. But I'm more than happy to get your feedback on this and learn from it, and also contact me about getting the subdomain for Apicurio Operate First cloud.
I provided the feedback yesterday when I was filling the survey, and by my point of view, one of the things that you guys might consider doing is not necessarily something you're not doing well, but might be an additional service. Might be to apply your professional experience to the hosted applications or tenants that you have, to help them identifying what they are doing right, what they might not be doing right from a point of view of SRE and DevOps, not necessarily from the code point of view, which is outside your domain. Like, for example, we were at the beginning using customize, kind of improvising and learning about it, but over time, some of the team members found that there were better ways to use it. So we learned our way. Maybe you might have quickly identified the fact that, yes, we could have improved it very easily, and you could have helped us with that. Or another thing that we had to learn the hard way in this side, and not on Operate First, but on the internal manager platform by Red Hat, is how to define our own SLOs and SLIs, which were coherent with what we were doing generically for a web application or a three-tier database, backend and front-end application. And yes, we did it. We delivered that, kind of improvising again. Maybe you have best practices, or it's so obvious to you to say, oh, use the reference of that project, and that can get you started. I think that you might be doing implicitly or explicitly something similar with the recent addition of Cruise to size the containers images. But again, that was one of the things that we have to figure it out by ourselves. And at the end, we probably throw up number up in the air. Maybe you might have a better process. So all these things, we've done that. We're learning, and that's the goal of the Operate First initiative in general. Maybe you could say, hey, why you don't, I don't know, talk to us for 1 hour, and then we check your code and we identify the 10 major flaws that you can easily improve and get a better bang out of that. So that's my suggestion, which something extra that you might consider doing.
Okay, thank you. So maybe the how to not suck at Operate First idea.
Yeah, that's me. I don't know, Rishab, you are more often hands-on with all this stuff. You might have your own perspective with these things. What do you think?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Even I feel the same way. So I have literally stumbled into a lot of teams reaching out to me about help with Operate First. Now, I mentioned this to Thorsten earlier that the entry point is not very clear. So there's something that needs to be worked upon. But apart from all of this stuff, I would like to talk about Operate First totally from a newbie perspective for somebody who really wants to get started with operation side of things. So I can share my experience how I got hooked into Operate First. So I started as a productization engineer in the team, and then I slowly took over the CI operations. I always wanted to contribute for CD operations, continuous deployment, but I was not able to find the right platform for it. And then I found about Operate First, and then it provided me the right platform where I can deploy my applications. I have a community which backs me if I don't understand anything. Operate First support, as Paolo mentioned, is again awesome. Also, there have been few interns which were directed to me where I had to, mentor them for, giving a kickstart. So I usually, if they want to learn about open source, I usually redirect them to your training sections. The Operate First training section talks briefly about open source and covers almost everything. So, I've also personally benefited from a lot of blog posts that you have in your training section. So I would like to see more of that. And other than that, it also helped me understand more about what the hybrid cloud vision is all about. And until I stumbled into Operate First, I wasn't sure what open hybrid cloud is all about. So only when I started working with Operate First, I learned about, okay, multiple workloads running across environments, and then you put all your operational code open source. I learned about how value proposition shifted from code to the product, and then now into operations. So getting all those operational experience, I think there's no better platform than Operate First right now. So that's my personal take. That's the feedback from a newbie perspective. And other things that I would personally like to say is, more contents on the training part. So if you can add more content on the training section, it would be really great. So it would be like a one-stop solution for somebody who wants to, get started with their operations.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing the experience. Something to note down and maybe work on. Okay. Any more ideas, or could we finish this there? Eric.
I actually had a quick question for Rishab. You mentioned that you have other teams coming to you for assistance with Operate First from time to time. How many other groups within Red Hat would you say you've helped onboard, not helped onboard, but helped get started in some fashion, or directed them to resources for Operate First?
I would say like 3 to 4 till now. 3 to 4 different teams.
Great, thanks.
Yes, and yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to change topic and mention a couple of things that I thought about that might be useful for you to hear. But if you wanted to comment, Thorsten, please do that.
No, just want to say that we can also, Rishab, do something together about what you already told the other teams, and maybe getting grouped together for like, your onboarding or sharing the experience with what you're already sharing. And you told me you have a great presentation for some of the teams that you already gave. So maybe you can put something together there. Okay, go on, Paolo.
Okay, so I wanted to also tell you that it's still a journey for us in the sense that it's been a back and forward development process and strategy with Operate First. When we started using that, we were deploying a custom version of our code there, just to leverage the environment and to use it. So as much as that thing has some commonality with our next environment that would be internal Red Hat staging, they were two different code base. Only after a while, we realized that the ideal way to work with these two environments was to actually have deployed on Operate First the same bits that we had in the following environment. So we had to rework our code base so that can be compatible with both Operate First and the rest. So as much as now we have a successful and linear story, it hasn't grown organically. We had to go there, get back, and start from the beginning. Now we are in better position to suggest people how to do these things eventually, and eventually follow our steps. But I don't want to make it simpler than it sounds. Like we made our fair share of errors, and we're still learning of this experience. And the other interesting story that maybe you can tell to other people is that in September, the team had an hackathon on Operate First. We had to, I don't know what we had to do. We had to change something that never really worked or was never ideal. So we agreed that the whole team could spend a week during working hours, half day considering the overlapping time zones, so half day every day for a week, where everyone was in a chat, and everyone, even those that never had a chance to touch the environment, had a strong excuse to touch the environment, familiarize, do a git push, open that URL that never opened, and things like that. And enforcing people in that, everyone kind of took away the fear of the unknown, and everyone realized that everyone could touch it and use it.
Yeah, that's a great input actually, and I'm already thinking about like a journey page, like how Apicurio got there and learned everything, and maybe making this like a user story on the internet, and like the different steps and your learning path and giving the chance to everybody. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
In my wish list, the same thing that I replied in the forum is some centralized or managed way to do authentication and authorization. So either some instance of Keyclog or Authorino or anything that you guys elect and pick up to do that. Right now, we are deploying our own instance of Keyclog that give us total freedom, and it's okay. But as a managed platform where you're already offering some building blocks like Kafka and others, maybe that might be something that people want to expect to find. I'm not saying that's going to be simple to fulfill the user needs and every tenant needs, but that might be something interesting offered by the platform to get.
I think we just deployed the Keycloak operator for the Apex project. We removed it. Previously, we also had Keycloak, and then we moved to ACM handling the single sign-on, and then we just put it back in. And I think it can work in a multi-tenant way. I'm not sure whether it would be a per namespace installation of Keycloak or a cluster-wide installation. But if you just search for Keycloak in the pull requests or support issues, you see that Apex project that just onboarded for that exact same reason.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then I would simply close this call. If no further questions are there. As always, feel free to contact me, us, GitHub, Slack, wherever you find us. And yes, thank you so much. Okay, adding to Marcel. Thank you so much for the great feedback and the positive and making it better way. And thanks everybody for joining us. And I think this will be on the next week for everybody on YouTube and our channel, and then you can re-watch it there. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of the Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.